Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on the Mayor's Big Bus Chat. And I'd like to introduce the panelists that are with me. And I'll shout your name out, and you can introduce yourself and say who you are. So in alphabetical order, I'll go to Alex Hornby first.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Alex Hornby. I am the CEO at Transdev, one of the main bus operators across West Yorkshire. You'll more recognise our buses as the Harrogate Bus Company 36, Coastline, Team Pennine, Keighley Bus Company, and so on. But it's all under the Transdev banner, and I'm the person apparently sometimes in charge of it. So good evening to you all.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Brandon Jones.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Brandon from First Bus. We operate services across most of West Yorkshire, a little bit less so in Wakefield, and looking forward to giving you a bit of a view on the BSIP tonight, and also answering queries around bus services. So look forward to sharing information later.
Thanks, Brandon. Councillor Carlisle.
Hello everyone, I'm Councillor Peter Carlisle. I'm a councillor from the Calverley and Farsley ward in Leeds, but on the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, I'm the Deputy Chair of the Transport Committee that has responsibility for bus. So as part of that, I chair the Bus Alliance that brings together operators and the Combined Authority to try and improve our bus service.
Thank you. And finally, Helen.
Hello everybody, I'm Helen Ellison. I'm Interim Head of Transport Policy at the Combined Authority, and it was our team that led on the development of the bus service improvement plan.
Great, thanks, Helen. And I'm Dave Pearson. I'm Director of Transport and Property Services at the Combined Authority. And between us, we hope to be able to sort of give you some thoughts around the bus service improvement plan, and also to answer some questions and thoughts that you've posted into the webinar to address as we go through it. So without further ado, if we go to the next slide, just a little bit of a housekeeping in terms of what we're going to do over the next hour. So this is being recorded, and so it'll be made available online for you to watch. If you can use the Q&A chat box on your screen to submit your questions, and then I'll be able to see them and invite colleagues to answer them as well. So hopefully we can make it quite interactive. Everything seems to be working so far. So that this all looks good. So we're not having any technical issues, but if the whole thing crashes and burns, then we'll rearrange it and do it again. So hopefully it won't, and we can move on through. If anybody requires a sort of further information, we can set up a one-to-one meeting with a member of the team to actually talk through any very specific issues and queries that you might have. As far as possible, we'd like to keep the discussion quite general around buses, useful to bring in examples from your experiences and your locality, but we won't necessarily have the time to get into the specific issues of people's area and people's specific bus service issues, but I'm sure we can arrange for further discussions about those if they come up. So we're going to be doing this webinar up until 7 o'clock, and we'll close just before 7 o'clock. So what we're going to do in the next few minutes is just to talk you through where we've got to with the bus service improvement plan, and what the Mayor's Big Bus Chat is seeking to achieve. Then we'll have a bit of a discussion initially with the panel members, and then we'll get through the questions that those of you watching and participating have set up for us. So that's just going to be the format for the next 5 or 10 minutes. We'll talk you through a couple of slides just to bring you up to speed, and then we'll start the discussions and the interactive part of it. So if we move to the West Yorkshire Bus Alliance first, just to give a little bit of context to how we got to where we are. The Bus Alliance is where the Combined Authority, the 5 councils and local bus operators sort of work on the things that they can collaborate on, the things that we can fix together, rather than necessarily sort of point fingers and say, well, bus company should be doing this and council should be doing that and the combined authority should be doing this. So we established the Bus Alliance as a voluntary partnership, and since 2019 we collectively agreed an arrangement of simplifying and reducing the cost of travel for younger people, for under 19s. We brought that in last year. We've managed through a process of upgrading the emissions from a lot of midlife buses to make them compliant with clean air zones, and bring them up to diesel buses up to the best possible emission standards you can get from a diesel bus, and we've done that with over 400 vehicles. And then during the pandemic, we were meeting sometimes weekly to manage the bus network through some very strange times and some very sort of difficult conditions, trying to bring in measures to make the passengers safe. And one of the things we did do, you might see it on the real-time information screens on town and city centre bus stops, is that we introduced this measure of how busy and crowded the bus is, and I'm pretty sure we were the first area in the country to do that, and we did that all collaboratively, most of us working from home, to basically mean that the people who, particularly the key workers who are out there using buses, could do so with confidence. So lots of good examples of the sort of things we worked and collaborated on. And so what we want to do is sort of look at the future now, and that's what today's all about. And one of the things we're moving the Bus Alliance into an enhanced partnership, which is much more formal nature of a partnership, and we're doing that so that we can deliver a programme of work called the the Bus Service Improvement Plan, which I'm now going to hand over to Helen to talk us through the Bus Service Improvement Plan.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you very much. So really quickly, what is the Bus Service Improvement Plan? So back March last year, the government released the National Bus Strategy, and as part of that we were required to develop a Bus Service Improvement Plan, and within that be moving towards an enhanced partnership, as Dave has just described. We published our Bus Service Improvement Plan in October last year, and this plan sets out our vision basically for buses across West Yorkshire, with a number of interventions we'd like to deliver. We were successful with our Bus Service Improvement Plan, and were awarded £69 million by government to help deliver it. Not all areas, whilst all local transport authorities were required to develop a Bus Service Improvement Plan, not all areas were funded. Could I have next slide, please, Nikki? So in summary, our vision for buses that was set out in our Bus Service Improvement Plan, we have a number of key themes around a safe and inclusive bus system, a better connected communities, and greener travel. And our plans really have a number of key objectives that we want to work for and set out and deliver through this vision, around really making bus kind of the first choice for travel in West Yorkshire, and as well as being financially sustainable, but also improve the delivery of buses to provide passengers with a service that they can feel confident in using, so helping people to make it their natural choice for travel. We also kind of want to improve connectivity for communities, particularly those that are seen as more deprived across West Yorkshire, to help improve general connectivity, and have that bus service to connect to other forms of transport. So really creating an integrated transport system. Could I have the next slide, please? Thank you. So within our Bus Service Improvement Plan, we set out essentially 5 kind of themed areas that we wanted to focus our delivery on. The first one is a better bus network that is inclusive across all our communities. The second area around a clear and simple fare structure, and The third area around improved and more inclusive customer service and support, so everyone feels that they can use the bus and they can access the information that they need to use it. The fourth area around making sure we have enough priority on our roads to enable our buses to run reliably and efficiently. And on the last area, having more greener buses and better buses to enable us to enable cleaner air out of our buses as well. Next slide, please. So in doing this, we wanted to think about the journey from the whole bus journey. So starting with before you travel and how you make your travel decisions, how you kind of plan your journey, how you think about the cost, the time of day, and really looking at kind of that whole journey planning, that integrating with from your door to door, if you like, your journey. Then kind of what you have on offer at the bus stop, and how you find the information at the bus stop, be that real-time information or on your phone or on a paper timetable, to the where, you know, if there is a waiting area, and thinking about kind of the quality of all of this, to then moving around boarding and paying, so thinking about making sure our buses are accessible, our offers around the ticketing. The ticketing offer is simple, it is clear, and you have different ways to be able to pay, so contactless, tap and go, and through our M card. The next slide, please. And then kind of also then moving towards kind of that onboard experience and making sure that and understanding kind of how the passenger uses their time on the bus. So being able to kind of sit and do what you need to do in that time without kind of loads, you know, disruption, but also getting the information you need. So having that access to that audio visual information at the same time. And then kind of what's your follow-on journey point from the bus? So what's your integration to other modes and being able to connect to other modes to fully complete your journey. And then after your journey, kind of making sure you kind of it's integrated into kind of where you were through the day and whether there was anything that could have been done quicker or better, and reflecting therefore on trying to kind of retain and attract new passengers. So we very much wanted to focus our bus service improvement plan on retaining existing passengers, but also looking to markets where we can get more people to use the bus. Next slide, please. So within there, as we've just seen, out of those 5 delivery areas, there are 2 main areas that we really wanted to focus on, and which DFT have welcomed, and they are the areas that they are keen for us to focus on as well. The first one around our plans for fares and ticketing. So early in September, and this has been launched by the Mayor around a new fares structure and a fares offer around our M card product. The day saver will be reduced from its £5.50 daily cap to £4.50. And this will essentially make day travel across the region cheaper. Also, we are creating a maximum single fare of £2 to basically people can take any single journey across West Yorkshire for £2. This is quite a substantial change in how we're doing our fares across West Yorkshire and how we are working with the operators to try and encourage patronage, but also directly help people to be able to reduce their cost of travel across the region. Next slide, please. And then the second area is around the local bus network. We are taking an opportunity through this to really look at our bus network and look and understand that our bus network is delivering for the people it needs to deliver across West Yorkshire, providing connectivity and accessibility across the network. So making sure we make the most of where we have very frequent services and building on those and creating better integration, but also at the same time making sure we have communities that are currently poorly served or not served, and whether, you know, what the offer is there and whether they should have more connectivity. We are also keen to look at the offering in the early morning and evening and later on at night to ensure that we can provide better bus service offer for those working shifts or those having caring responsibilities and those not necessarily travelling in the commuter hours, if you like. Next slide, please. Thank you. And I think that, yeah, that was everything on the bus service improvement plan. Thank you, Dave.
Okay, thank you, Helen. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a whistle-stop tour through what the bus service improvement plan actually says. What I'd like to open up to the panel really about views around not just what do you think about the bus service improvement plan, but what sort of what's going to change out of it and how we can actually sort of make a difference to passengers. So I'm going to sort of invite each of the panelists to reflect on that a little, and I'll take it in turn. And I'll start with our bus operator colleagues, and purely by alphabetical order. I'll pick on Alex first in this one. So Alex, thoughts on the bus service improvement plan?
Well, I think the main thing to make everyone aware of is that I think what this demonstrates is it's not necessarily admission, but it's a statement by us all that we do want to make things better. We're not all happy with the status quo. We do want to make buses attractive and better to use. And what it means in a sense by doing it in partnership, it's recognizing the strengths of each partner, and it's coming together to get a consensus and to collaborate to make things better. I think as Dave, as you mentioned when you introduced, gone are the days of operators arguing and wastefully competing with each other, and gone are the days where operators and local authorities are arguing. We've now got a real sense of understanding what we each agree on and what we can build on. And what we all agree on is we want to make things better for the travelling public, and we want to make things better for current bus users, and we want to make things so attractive that we grow demand and we attract people who thought they may never have used the bus. Those areas focus on the things that we know are important to customers, because between us, we've spoke to customers and we've listened to what they want, and it focuses on the key demands that are out there. Reliability and punctuality is paramount. Delivering buses on time, that isn't always necessarily the responsibility or fault of the operator or the driver. What we can do to highways and road space is really important, and I think what the schemes of the BSIP do enable that. Pricing can be important and an important lever to use to attract more people onto the bus and create a sustainable price volume that enables that to work. I think we all recognise the power of the bus, even in itself and what it does now in terms of it being a green mode of transport. But I think what the BSIP does, it shows that actually we want to be an example to the road users by moving to zero emission really quickly, and this enables that as well. So there's a number of other areas there, and I think the bit on pricing, I think, is the key one that shows how joined up this is. We really want to promote tickets that it's the same no matter what bus company you get on. So this idea that the potential confusion around what bus is what, and I'm not sure what the price should be, and I'm not sure where my tickets can get me, that goes out the window. We get to a real simplified model, and the main thing is that we are delivering this in partnership, and it's based on a sense of agreeing what we want to do, and we move forward from that. And it builds on the work that we did, with Bus 18 back in 2018, and on the Alliance, this sense of let's understand what we agree on, let's have a vision, and let's move on that. And I think this demonstrates what's possible. And we're all round the table and we're all speaking the same language, and we all want to make things better for customers.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Brandon.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, the key is improvement, and absolutely right to highlight the partnership work that's gone into delivering this. The reason why I think the plan has the right ingredients in it is because of an established partnership that's already in place. So this isn't just about one stakeholder's view of what improvement should be about, but it's a collection of stakeholders, and it also takes into account other organisations who aren't necessarily directly involved in West Yorkshire's bus service. So there's an organisation called Transport Focus, for example, who are regularly involved with the Bus Alliance, and they help input customer comments into those decisions as well. So this improvement plan, obviously now being discussed and open to comment and input and influence, in terms of its how it's been set out and established. It has been driven by an established partnership with input from all stakeholders as well as Transport Focus, and I think it does look at these key areas that customers tell us that we really need to be focused on, particularly around simplicity, both in fares and the network, the greener bus network, but particularly around punctuality and reliability. We know from customers that we've got to be better at that, and we've also got to be better at giving people the information that they need to be able to make those decisions as well. So I think it's a great opportunity, and I think this is a great opportunity as well through the bus chat to influence and input into how we deliver that.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. I'm going to bring Councillor Carlill in now, just from a elected politician's perspective on the bus service improvement plan. Councillor Carlill.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, the operator said quite a lot about what's gone into this, but it is worth remembering, I think the bus service improvement plan builds on all of that information that the Combined Authority has picked up over the years, as well as, and working in the partnership, we're able to then get that feedback from the operators themselves that they've heard from customers. So all of this, it kind of hasn't been scribbled by the Combined Authority. It's all the input that we've heard over a period of time. It's great to be able to bring it together. And we know in an area without mass transit, as we are, that buses are the major way that we move people around in a sustainable manner. And really the best thing we can do in order to improve the bus network we have is to improve the patronage on the buses, get it to a point where it is a really sustainable service, where we've got as many people using it as possible, in order to both be able to improve the network and put more money in. But obviously with the climate emergency, that's a real key to moving people to travelling more sustainably. And we know that's what we need to do, get more people on the buses, get more fares in to be able there to have more money in order to improve those. So it really goes on that simplicity of bus travel being key. The cost is another one that we hear very often as elected members, as well as the reliability and the consistency of the service, which is so important. I think it's worth remembering how important buses are to a large amount of our population. I mean, across the city of Leeds, which I've got the figures for, and I'm sure it's relative across the rest of the county as well, just under a third of people don't have access to a car. And when you look at something like job seekers, that can be 75% of people without access to a car. So they're really important to allow people to go about their lives, and improving that bus network will improve the areas the poorest the fastest, which is one of the things that we aim to do, but also provide a better service for everyone. And so it's great to be moving towards this better partnership model, and then looking at how this leads us into making those improvements we want before we look at obviously the decisions the Mayor has in the future around how the bus may be reformed.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next question, because in some respects, what I think we do need to do is sort of accept the fact that none of this is easy. So I think I'll start with the bus operators again and go to Brandon first about what do you think the biggest challenges facing the West Yorkshire bus service are, and how do we tackle them?
Well, we've got one or two challenges at the moment, as some of our customers will be aware, but I think specifically talking about the plan itself, I think for me it's very much around resources, particularly around people. Obviously there are teams in the operators and the Combined Authority and our partner organisations as well. We've got to make sure that we can focus that resource in the right place, and then make sure that we're delivering, as well as getting those inputs and feedback from both customers and non-customers as well. I think Alex talked about attracting people onto buses perhaps who aren't using them at the moment. And I think, as well as resources, the other issue we've got is around information and awareness, and it's around ensuring that when we can start to be confident and certainly put right information out around our services, what goes where, and the service of them at the moment. I think we've got to then focus on making sure we market well to particularly to non-users, so that we can attract more people onto buses. So I think for me, it's around resources, making sure that we've got the focus of the people, and it's about then using that and making sure we've got the right information going out to both our users and to non-users, so that we can really grow the market on what is, a very substantial opportunity at the moment. Councillor mentioned the cost of living crisis, cost of fuel and other things as well at the moment. I think there's a great opportunity, and we really need to go out and sell the bus service. And I think we can do that through regular engagement. So yeah, I think resource, people, information, and that is very much around making sure that we can deliver as well quickly, because I appreciate our customers and people who are aware of the bus services want to be able to see those improvements come quickly too. So I think it's about speed of delivery as well.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. Alex, do you want to come in there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, quite a bit of the challenge is the time we're in, isn't it? We've obviously just come out of I think we're coming out of a pandemic, and all the challenges that brought with us, and the destabilising effect that had on employment generally, not least our own employment, and the change in behaviours that brought to travel as well, in terms of how that reset a lot of people's travel demand, in terms of working from home and changing how people travel. So as well as the fact that we've done our best to try and create what we think is the future and what the future should look like to make things better, we're having to sort of understand new ways of how people are traveling, and different times they're traveling, and different patterns and different regularity. So it's trying to, there's a number of things to get our heads around there, in terms of how people's behaviour has changed in terms of our customers, which is why sessions like this are so important. The other key issue from a day-to-day problem is the resource, I think, as Brendan mentioned, in terms of drivers as well, in terms of how we're all having to deal with what is a national driver shortage. It's impacting every bus operator, rail operator up and down the country, as well as many other industries too. And obviously now is not the time we really wanted that, because we are recovering our customer numbers, and we really want to be there for our customers as they come back and show how good we are, and sort of prove what they've missed. So there's that, and then the other influence that I think the pandemic has brought upon is the changing in cost levels, in terms of what that's done in terms of our ability to attract new people, what that does to our wage rates, which we've all obviously moved on that to make sure we're paying people an attractive enough wage and a comfortable enough wage, which I think we're all now there on. And then the cost of fuel as well, lumped into that as well. So there's a number of challenges there that we've really got to overcome. We've got to establish our customer base, establish our driver base, and try and understand what our current cost base is, so we can move forward, which particularly the last part is not the kind of nice thing or thing I enjoy saying in front of customers, but it's the reality, in terms of we just need to make sure that we can afford and be sure that we can understand what we do next, because we have the ambition, and we just want to make sure we can deliver on it, because as you can see, and as everyone's mentioned, the BSIP, the plans that you're hearing about, is not short on ambition, but we just obviously want to make sure that we're able to resource it effectively.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Councillor Carlisle, is there anything you want to sort of reflect on in terms of challenges?
Yeah, well, I think the operators, obviously they're clear on the challenges and the ones that face us, and I think you can't remove the pandemic for this, because we're still not up to the patronage that we had before, and that's a difficult one. All the plans were put forward when we knew how the bus network was working previously, and people are using it very differently now, and that's taken us all time to adapt. But it's one of those difficulties as well with a network that's grown over time, and just grown with intervention from the Combined Authority to add to, but with private operators obviously coming up with the routes and having their views on it. There's a couple of questions in the chat around the public control idea of it, so I'll just touch on that quickly, because obviously that's something that is there for a decision for the mayor to make in the future, and the mayor's clear she wants to make that decision within within her first term of office. But it's worth noting that looking forward to bus reform and public control, it does take time, and there are various different options of how you could get that further control of the network. We need to work through that and see what benefits each option may give us, whether they get more benefits than an enhanced partnership scheme. And so really the work we're doing here, I don't think it delays any of that work that's going on alongside this, and it doesn't change the speed at which those decisions could be made. But in the meantime, there is still a lot that we agree on between operators and ourselves of how we could improve the network, and we haven't got to the end of that list. So I think it'd be a shame to put the enhanced partnership to one side and focus purely on what might be a model that may not come for 5 years or such. But as well, I think it's worth remembering that it's not purely our decision whether bus reform comes through and whether something like franchising comes in. It will have to be done alongside the government. So we do need to prove that we've worked as hard as we can with operators to get to the best solution for West Yorkshire. And so it really, in doing this, working through the bus service improvement plan and the enhanced partnership, we're working alongside both of those aims to come up with whatever option may be the best in the end. And I wouldn't like to leave one stone unturned just for one other option.
Okay, thanks for that. I've got one more question for the panel, but I'm going to save that until the end because I think it's quite useful to start getting into addressing some of the questions that some of the participants are posting in the chat. I may take a little bit of liberty in linking some questions together just to get us through all the issues that people are raising, if I can. So I think where we'll start, I think, is where we've got Peter Ketley. Can't disagree with the aims and ambitions, but the current reality of reduced evening services, rural services in his area suggests a huge mountain to climb. And I think there's a theme there about reliability that another attendee has raised concerns about reliability, and then we've got Patricia McKenna, who's making a point about the safeguards to be put in place to protect the services that run on a limited timetable and the impact of cancelling an hourly service. So I think a lot of that is around any stability of the current service, the current reduced evening services, and how we can sort of bring a more reliable service in. So I'll sort of turn to operator colleagues first to reflect on some of those points, and then I might bring Helen in to sort of cover some of the work that is going to happen in the bus service improvement plan to address some of them. So Alex, do you want to go first on these sort of issues?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously issues can differ from operator to operator and from area to area. So, it's quite difficult to keep it broad, especially the kind of different locations that we all serve across West Yorkshire, the different kind of routes that we're operating. But, essentially it's in our interests, just to make one thing very clear, that we run the most reliable service we can. Nobody sets out on any given day to run an unreliable or unpunctual bus service. It's not in anyone's interest. It's not even the driver's interest, because now with tracking and everything else, everything is very carefully monitored and managed to make sure things run as best as they can. I think one example I always use is if you drive your car to work on every given day or to one destination on a regular basis, your journey time will never be the same. And therefore it's so difficult when you're a bus operator to try and timetable your services, to try and predict that arrival time day in and day out, irrespective of all the data and all information we use to try and program it as best we can. So it's always in our interest to run reliable bus services. No operator I know of, and certainly no operator in West Yorkshire, would ever set out to run unreliably. The influences that go against us sometimes is obviously how the roads, the volume of road traffic can differ from day to day. It can differ because a white van decides to park somewhere and create and the chaos that can cause. It can differ depending on who decides to park their car to drop their kids off at school one day compared to another road they may use. There's a whole different host of things that influence that. At the same time, the issues I think that a number of us are facing now is that you know, it was a rule that you just don't cancel buses. It's just one thing that just never happens. If you know, but I suppose now, you know, we're all facing these driver resource issues and we're all working very hard to overcome that, and I'm sure in time we will overcome. But these are the kind of issues that we're currently facing at the moment that impact on punctuality. But make no mistake, we're all very aware, acutely aware, and every time we talk to customers, they tell us it's in our DNA to totally understand and totally respond that punctuality and delivering the bus on time is the customer's key demand. And I think what this BSIP does is that it is an understanding and accepts that it's no longer just the operator's responsibility to deliver the bus on time. There's responsibility on all partners to create and give buses road space and elements of priority so we can predict journey times more effectively and we can timetable journeys more effectively. And that's what it's all about. The bonus of then being able to whiz past cars in a queue, that's a bonus. The main thing we want is to be able to predict our timetables better than we do now. And that's the kind of thing that I think the BSIP will help us deliver.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Brendan, Bart?
Yeah, I think Alex has said most of the things that I would want to say. That there's just a few things that I'd like to add to it. Absolutely, a last resort. We spend a lot of time in our depots working hard both on recruitment and retention, but also on the day-to-day side of the business. So we do have spare drivers and spare resources where we use them as effectively as possible to plug gaps. And the biggest issue, as many will be aware right now, is the national driver shortage, which is impacting on a lot of sectors. And we're working hard to address that. In fact, we're working hard as an alliance right now to address that, not just as individual operators as well. So a lot of work going on there, and certainly the situation is improving, although it's certainly not fixed. I think where there are cancellations, clearly we try to everything we do to avoid that. I think where the BSIP is an opportunity particularly is around information and giving people that option to be able to make decisions where things do happen. There are, for example, other issues like vandalism and other things that mean buses sometimes can't run their full journey. And being able to give customers good information to be able to understand what's happening with their journey, I think is really important. And I know it has been mentioned on some of the bus chat sessions around real-time information, and I think that's another area as well where we are working collectively as an alliance to make sure that information is as accurate as possible, and then people can make those decisions. And if we do get it wrong, well, the alliance has also put in place a customer guarantee where we will pay for a taxi for any last journey that doesn't run. And although clearly the focus is very much on fixing the issue where a journey doesn't run and customers not satisfied, as an example, then the alliance has put in place a customer guarantee to provide day tickets as a gesture of goodwill. So we are working very hard. We know there's a lot more to do, but the BSIP does give us the opportunity to do that, including targeting where these hotspots are, so that we can collectively work with the local authorities and the combined authority to put actions in place to fix them. So those of you that are familiar with the A647 in Leeds, for example, some bus priorities recently gone in there, which means that buses running between Bradford and Leeds can operate, as Alex says, to a lot more closer scheduled timetable that is more consistent every day. And that gives operators the chance to be able to put timetables in which are realistic.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. I'm going to move us on a little bit now, because I'm conscious that we've got quite a lot of questions coming in. I want to try and cover as much as other bases as possible. I think Councillor Carlisle has explained some of the thinking around the process of franchising and public control. I'm just going to bring Helen in just to talk about some of the mechanics of the process that the Combined Authority has already started around looking at franchising, and briefly on the timescales involved in that, And while you've got the floor, Helen, you might want to reflect a little bit on the timescale for mass transit as well. So I'll give you all the difficult bureaucracy type of issues that sit behind this.
Thanks,
so, over to you.
So firstly, on franchising and looking at bus reform in general, we are currently in the process of looking at undertaking an assessment for bus reform. What that means is that we are doing a business case at this moment in time to understand our options. The enhanced partnership is one option. The enhanced partnership allows us to test our relationship further with the operators to ensure we can deliver some customer benefits, and ultimately, regardless of the governance, the delivery mechanism, it's about delivering a better service for customers out, using the buses. So the enhanced partnership is one option, and we are looking at options around franchising. We are hoping to have the assessment completed within at some point next year, which will then require an audit and will then be consulted on. If all of that progresses okay, then the mayor will be in a position to be able to take a decision as to whether she wants to progress further with franchising at that point. There is quite a bit of process then to happen before you would see franchised bus services, if you like, on the road, and there'll be further time to kind of develop those packages and work from there. So yes, so there's a lot of process to happen first, but we are currently looking at the options. On mass transit, we are also developing our proposals for mass transit. We will shortly be coming out to engage again on our mass transit vision as part of our wider look at our transport strategy, but to understand kind of where our views and kind of this is to build on kind of the engagement we did last year around our mass transit vision. We, as part of our city region sustainable transport settlement, we secured £200 million to support our development work for mass transit, and this was a significant way forward because this is the first significant amount of money to help develop our proposals. So within this settlement period, if you like, so within this 5 years of our city region sustainable transport settlement, there will be a significant amount of development work, and then hopefully the start of construction after that. So, thank you, Dave.
Okay, thanks, Helen. I think it's fair to say, both in doing the assessment for franchising and doing mass transit. I was joking when I mentioned bureaucracy, but there's significant amounts of public money, and there's quite a lot of process that sits around that. And I think I'd give people reassurance that this work is underway, but it does take quite a few years to actually bring things forward on the ground. I'm going to give the panelists a little bit of a breather, or I'll bring them in a minute and answer some of the questions around fares and ticketing that quite a few of you have put in, and just to give you a little bit of flavour of where the bus service improvement plan's going with that. I mean, one of the first things we plan to do with the bus service improvement plan in September is to introduce a simplified and reduced fare structure. So the maximum price of a single ticket will move to £2, and the maximum price of a day's travel will move currently from £5.50 for an M card all day ticket to £4.50. And so that's a first stage of doing more to I think as a number of people have said earlier, just to demystify the complications around how much it travels by bus, to bring the price down, which is something that is really needed in the cost of living crisis, and to make bus travel more attractive from the point of view of the cost of travel and comparing it with other modes of transport. But it's just a start. There's a few people who've asked questions around Oyster, for example, the Oyster scheme in London, and has been with us for quite a long time, but that's evolved quite a lot, and it's not so much a system where people load value onto a card and then use it anymore. It's more a case of people using their bank cards to make journeys and then pay through their bank account. And we have plans through the bus service improvement plan to bring that in, hopefully sometime in the next year or so. Because I think the fares that we're introducing this year are the cornerstone of being able to do that in future years, but we've got some technology to roll out and to enable that to happen. Concessionary fares have been raised as well, and particularly the ability for people who have a free bus pass to travel free of charge before 9:30. I think we've said in the bus service improvement plan, we're actively looking at that, do understand the affordability issues around that, and that the demand for travel has probably changed a bit before. That the national scheme, which is a national scheme that imposes the 9:30, did that because buses were pretty full in the peak times. I think peaks are different now. That probably needs another looking at in terms of what could be done for concessionary travellers. But I would sort of caution, we do need to look at targeting the cost of these things at those who will benefit most, and particularly looking at the cost of living for families as well. So lots to look at in terms of the cost of travel. I think we'd be making a good start in coming weeks, but there is more to do, and the bus service improvement plan sort of identifies that as well. So hopefully that addresses questions from David Smith. And from just scrolling through the people from Jamie Eldridge around the sort of moving things into a different form of way in which people pay to travel. But I don't know whether any of the operators want to come in on fares and ticketing. I think Brandon, you do.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. And I think what's really useful to know here is that this isn't just something that we're hoping to do a long time in the future. This is about to happen next month, and in terms of that really total option that we all want to deliver, that simpler multi-operator option, well, we've already got schemes outside of London trialing that right now. So we know that this is achievable and deliverable, and we know the Alliance is working hard to make it happen. So it's very much something that we can see and feel, and will be something that our customers can benefit from very soon, not just something that we would like to happen.
Okay, thanks, Brandon.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, we hear a lot of mention, don't we, about London-style buses and London-style fares. Well, I think what we're doing here is actually a step further, particularly when you look at the cost of day travel, weekly travel and monthly travel through M-Card. It's one of the most successful and widely used integrated multimodal ticketing systems that exist in the country. And so what West Yorkshire will have in 2 weeks' time is that, and this idea that, and we should point out as well that the £2 is a cap. There will still be fares that are cheaper than £2 that will still be out there as well. But this idea of the day ticket at £4.50 being used in any other operator is real class leading stuff for the UK. And I think we can be proud that we're delivering that in West Yorkshire, and we're delivering in partnership.
Thanks, Alex. And what I would add to what's been said and asked around Oyster cards and tap and cap, which, you know, all valuable things. One of the things we have learned in this region is customers do like to use apps to buy their tickets on, and feel quite in control doing that. So I think that there is a role for a variety of different ways in which people buy and travel, with in terms of buy their travel and how they pay for it. We shouldn't necessarily put all eggs in one basket. Okay, I'm going to move to sort of a final sort of round of questions from the floor, and then we'll sort of finish off on a question from the panel, really. And I'm conscious that Myra James, Elizabeth Ann Rhodes, and one or two other people have asked some specific questions around routes, bus routes, and I think it's quite useful to, whilst we can't necessarily get into the specifics of particular locations and routes. Just to reflect on what does come over, and I'm sure will come over from the big bus chat, is a general desire to have the ability for the bus network to meet the sort of changing travel needs that people have got. So as Alex is on my screen, I'm going to click on you first. Is thoughts around how we can actually evolve the bus network to meeting changing travel demands and patterns of travel?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we need to accept, I mean, the bus networks generally throughout the UK, without really boring everybody, but most bus networks have generally just evolved. No one has actually said, right, what is now happening? It's the year 2022, let's build a bus network from scratch. There's a number of reasons for that. It's because typically people don't like change, and even though there has been a bit of a reset of travel patterns, a change and unsettlement in a bus network does tend to cause quite a bit of confusion. But at the same time, I think one thing we accept now since COVID is that there's a lot more leisure demand than there used to be, and there's less. The morning peak when it relates to certainly bus usage is not what it was, and journey and the demand of people going to the office every day, that doesn't happen anymore. People hybrid work. Fridays used to be one of the busiest days. Now it's no more. The busiest days of the week are typically on Tuesday or a Wednesday. And so there are all these kind of factors that I think we're thinking of, that it's saying where is demand most needed, and how do we adjust our services, and how we position and market them and price them in order to make sure that we build on where we're seeing these green shoots of growth, where we're carrying, in some cases, on certain times of day and in certain days of the week, more people than what we were carrying before the pandemic. But at certain times, we're certainly carrying less, and I think it's sensible that the network adjusts to that. At the same time as well, I think people clearly demand buses to be faster and more relevant to their needs. I think in previous times, and certainly decades ago, buses were built to go up and down every single cul-de-sac and try and serve as many people as possible. Actually, people don't want that from a bus service. People want it to get them from A to B as quickly as we can, and we need to sort of shift our mindset to say that we want to build a bus network that can move as many people as it can in an attractive way, and builds on what people want from a bus service that makes them use it as effectively and as regularly as they possibly can. And I think there's a number of ideas that are certainly within the BSIP that as operators we've fed in as to how you can build and make the bus network more attractive, with a sense of these faster express services that make people think. And I think the key point I'm trying to make here is that if we're trying to get people out of the car and we're trying to accept the buses have got a role to play, reduce congestion, improve air quality and all those things, people want the bus to do what the car does, and what the car doesn't do is stop a lot and go up and down various side roads and eventually get you there an hour later. What people want to see from a bus is the effectiveness and convenience of what the car does. And the more we can do that as it relates to being dependable, reliable, punctual, and as fast as we can, I think that's the kind of network that we really want to see come more out of this process, and how we get demand back to where we want to do, and make a bus network that people want to use. I think it was Helen that said one of the key elements of the BSIP is actually make buses a meaningful choice. We don't want the buses to be last resort anymore, but to do that, the network has to adapt and change and appeal to those who don't use it now.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Brandon?
Yeah, just a couple of points to add. I think that's exactly why the BSIP is so important, because it gives us that opportunity to work closely together, sharing data where we can identify where the demand hotspots are. I think it's right. We've got to adapt where we need to, but if we do that collaboratively, I think we've got every opportunity to do it. I think the final point in the network is really about the way we market and the way we provide information. I think we've got a big opportunity here to really make a difference, particularly to those people who aren't currently using buses, and that's why people may have seen investment in in coloured lines on the bus stops. The whole way that we've tried to market the network, particularly the core network, is trying to sell that simpler idea of being able to use bus. So we've made some really good progress, but I think the BSIP and the alliance going forward through the enhanced partnership presents a really good opportunity to build on that.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. I'm going to return to our final question, really, and go through the panel quickly. We're engaged in quite an extensive public engagement process. The Mayor's Big Bus Chat, which is got a few more weeks to go. Lots of different activities, including this one. So I'm going to start perhaps with Councillor Carlisle first. How do you think that the feedback we get from the Big Bus Chat is going to help improve services?
Well, I think it's important in this one to remember that the feedback we get from the Big Bus Chat affects not just the improvements we make now through the bus service improvement plan and through the operators, but effectively what may be the case for change in future if there is a decision to take buses into further control. So it's really important to hear everything we can to work with operators as close as we can. I mean, there was one comment I saw in the chat that said, why do we continue to work with the operators? Well, they are the operators we've got at the moment, and that isn't going to change overnight. We must work together to improve it, because the needs of the public out there is for a better bus service, and we have to work with what we've got at the moment. This isn't where I would have started from, where I'd looking to create a perfect bus network and bus service in West Yorkshire, and I'm sure the operators agree with that as well. So it's really important to get the full view in this. It's really important to hear from people who use the bus regularly, but also from those who don't use the bus at the moment, because the only way we're going to improve bus networks is to get more people on them, to get a better network out of that, and to keep it going into this spiral where it becomes the obvious choice for how you travel across the area. So I would encourage everyone to put their comments in, because yes, we will work on this enhanced partnership to see how far it gets us. I'm sure if the will of the people that comes through in the Mayor's Bus Chat is something that's beyond what an enhanced partnership will be, then the Mayor will be happy to make that decision at the appropriate time. But we do have to try and get there, one, in the short term, because time is of the essence, and we need to shift to this new way of working and really make change now. But also we need that brief for what we would like the bus service to be across our area. Okay,
thank you. Time is of the essence, and we've got about 2 minutes left. So Alex, Brandon, anything you want to add into that?
Other than just to say, I think when you look at other areas that are in the situation we're in, I can assure customers in West Yorkshire that a lot more is happening here than is happening in the other areas that are going down a different road. You know, without saying too much, my company also runs buses in Greater Manchester, and the amount of stalling that's happened and the lack of improvement that's taken place over the past few years, whilst the franchising debate happens instead, it stalls things. And what's happened here is the franchising discussion has been put not quite to one side, but what we're saying is, what can we do in the meantime? And what we're doing is we're not standing still. So I think that's why it's important that we're doing this. I think that the chat itself, though, to quickly answer the question, it's about what we're trying to do. It's about customers. What we all agree on is we want to grow demand, and we want to make people feel happy to travel on buses in West Yorkshire, and we believe in the things that the bus can enable. That has to start with talking to customers, talking to people that don't use the bus, to use the bus system now, and building improvements. And that's why this kind of discussion is important to us.
Okay, thanks, Alex.
And we've proven actually that although we've still got a long way to go, we've delivered enormous things in West Yorkshire, both through the bus investment, but also in terms of delivering improvements for customers as well. And I will encourage as many people as possible to have their say. It does make a difference. We've proven through bus timetables, through bus networks, through bus design, that actually feedback does change things. So yeah, encourage people to have their say and make a difference.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. And with that, we'll put our final advert up for the Mayor's Big Bus Chat. And thank you all for your participation. I'd like to thank the panelists, Alex, Brandon, Councillor Carlisle and Helen, and just encourage people to participate in the remaining weeks of the Mayor's Big Bus Chat. And I hope you all have a pleasant evening. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.